Hi everybody, today I'm doing a top 10 video on the top 10 places to visit in China. A bit about me, I lived in China for 4.5 years, and during that time I was lucky enough to go travelling around, and I got to see many places. Now, China is a huge country, it has over 600 cities, and I only went to maybe about 10% of them. So first of all, these top 10 are my opinion based on where I've been, but also I'm aware that I haven't been everywhere, so you may well have other ideas, you might disagree, but let's have a look at 10 places that I would recommend if you're planning a visit to China. Number 10, World Sculpture Park Changchun in Guilin province. Now this is a very large spacious park. It's just in the south of the city centre of Changchun, and inside the park it's around this massive lake. You can walk around the park, it would take hours. You could spend the whole afternoon there looking at all the different sculptures and statues, and lots of things to see, lots of abstract things. There's more traditional art and modern art, anything that you might like to see. Now, Changchun is in the north of China, and as you can see, the sky is so blue, the air was really fresh. I went there in October 2017. It was the start of October for the National Day holiday, but in Changchun at that time it was absolutely freezing, even though it's only the start of October, more like winter. So here we can see some more of the more unusual sculptures. I like this one a lot. And there's a bride having her photo taken in the park. And Changchun also has the Manchurian Palace Museum, which is a great place to visit. A lot of the history of the place is very, very moving, very sad, but very interesting. The zoo in Changchun is great, and the art gallery is a good place to visit too. It's kind of a mix of old and new, the city. There's quite a difference between the old part and the new part, but like a lot of China, it's developing very quickly. There's the light rail system that you can travel around. Yeah, I'd recommend Changchun. Number 9, Tianshan in Urumqi, which is in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. Now this is right up in the far northeast of China, in Xinjiang. So Tianchi is the name of the lake, and it translates as Heaven's Pond or Heavenly Pond. Heavenly Lake. It's about 50 kilometers away from Urumqi city, so you get there in a couple of hours on a little bus that goes up into the mountains. Beautiful scenery all the way, although you do leave while it's still dark in the morning. Urumqi is in the same time zone as the rest of China, but it's so far east that the sun rises and sets about 2 hours difference from Beijing. So the working day is kind of staggered out of time, really. As this lake, so I went up there, I took a boat trip on that boat. You can see in the distance the mountains, a bit of snow on the peaks, and you can travel around. There's a temple beside the mountain that you can walk up to and get great views of the lake and the mountains and the boat that we went on. Here's a view from the boat, you can see the snow peaks in the distance. Beautiful lake. Again, lovely fresh air here. And next, number 8, we have the Terracotta Army in Xi'an, Shanxi province. Xi'an, wonderful city, so many things to see and do, like the city wall, for example, and the big wild goose pagoda. but my personal favourite, the Terracotta Army. I've been there a few times. And the main part of the Terracotta Army is in this giant hangar. You can see just the size of the place. And so many statues being unearthed. All of these warriors and horses. They all have different faces. We're not sure if they're based on real people or not. They were only discovered relatively recently and they're still being unearthed today. You can see just rows and rows of warriors. And in the museum you can get up close to some of them, like this kneeling warrior. And you can also see some of the horses and chariots that they discovered. All of this was made and then buried under the ground, apparently to protect an emperor in the afterlife. And there's a few different buildings that you can walk around and see the work they're doing. There's the bell tower in Xi'an, and of course the city wall. So it's a great place to spend several days. At number 7, I have the Li River in Guilin, the city of Guilin in Guangxi Zhuang Autonomous Region. Now, Guilin has these the sun and moon towers in the lake in the downtown. It's a lovely city in itself, very popular with travellers, kind of tropical climate. And the nearby rice fields, which are a popular tourist destination, stepped rice fields, which flood in the springtime and get planted with rice. But the highlight for me on my trip to Guilin was the Li River. So I took a boat trip. As you can see, the boats just leave one after the other. It's like a train of boats travelling up the river. But the mountains along the Li River are just incredible. And the best way to see and enjoy them, I would say, is from the boats. This is not the boat that I was on a bigger one, but you can take these smaller ones around. And you take the boat up to this village, very picturesque, walk around, have some food, normally take a bus back rather than take the boat back. Yeah, I think the river is one way. But it's like a 2-hour journey on the boat, just enjoying the scenery. The mountains around the Li River are featured on the back of the 20 yuan note, which lots of people like to compare. Number 6, we have the Crescent Moon Lake in Dunhuang in Gansu province. Now, here it is. I had seen pictures of this lake now and again, and I didn't really believe that it could look like this. But when I went there, I was not disappointed at all. It's amazing. Now, I went there in July 2019, in the middle of summer, and I went there in the middle of the day, about 12 o'clock, which they tell you not to do because it is so hot. And yes, it was hot, but as you can see, when I went at this time of day, there weren't many people there. And here's a more panoramic view, so you can climb up one of the dunes and just have a look over. You can see the Crescent Lake. As it gets a bit later, more and more people start to arrive, and a lot of them start off with a camel ride across the dunes, or you can climb up this rope ladder, much steeper than it looks in the photo. It's hard work getting to the top, but the views are incredible. And as dusk falls, all the lights come on. But this time it was quite busy, although more people are a bit further away. The Crescent Moon Lake and the desert park, Yuewachuan is its proper name, is just a short bus ride from downtown Dunhuang, quite a small city, Dunhuang, and you can take the bus and go there very, very easily. Although the bus's back stop quite early, I had to walk back in the end, but that wasn't too bad. And the city of Dunhuang is also famous for the Mogao caves, which are nearby. Also, the next day I went to visit the Mogao caves, the grottos there. Number 5, Qinghai Lake in Qinghai province. Now this is the largest inland lake in China, and the name Qinghai means turquoise sea. You can see from this photo, the turquoise light is really shining there from the water. Now when I went there in the morning, the weather was very overcast. It was raining on the bus journey there from Xi'an city, the closest city to the lake, but that's quite far away. However, during the day the sky turned blue, the sun came out, and beautiful. Here we see a yak by the side near a field, the lake in the distance. It's a good place for migrating birds, and some of these black-headed gulls and bar-headed geese stop by, and the tourists like to feed them. It's a very popular place for wedding photos or pre-wedding photos again, and here you can see this is where I took my photo, but you can see the colour of the lake really starting to pop as the sun comes out. There's this couple getting set up, and there's a statue in the lake, a lady of the lake. Lots of Tibetan flags around, and Tibetan, multicoloured Tibetan flag. And this was some yak milk yogurt that I had, very, very bitter. It's kind of citrusy and sour. It took a little while to get used to it, but I quite liked it in the end. And there we can see a beautiful lake. You can maybe make out some mountains away in the distance. Lovely. Number 4, the Pagoda Forest. This is at the Shaolin Temple in Songshan in Henan province. Here it is. Before I went to China, the Pagoda Forest was one of the places on my shortlist that I really wanted to see. It's fascinating. All of these pagodas were built to commemorate a Shaolin monk who had died, or an elder. And the number of tiers in the pagoda represents the rank of the monk. So the higher the pagoda, the more important the person was. So I've been to this pagoda forest 3 times, and you can't actually walk amongst the pagodas, they're in a fenced off area, but you can get up pretty close to them and walk around the site, which, even though it was quite busy with tourists, the photos look like it was pretty quiet in amongst all the trees. Beautiful place. I could spend hours there just walking around looking at the pagodas, hundreds of them, concentrated in one area. And it's beside the Shaolin Temple, where we can see the world famous Shaolin Temple. That's the entrance there, and the little guardian of the temple outside. Number 3, and it's the Great Wall of China. Before I went to China, I heard a lot about the Great Wall, of course. It's perhaps the most famous thing about China. And I thought, well, maybe it's overhyped, maybe it's just a wall. But when I got there, and you can see it snaking across the hills, incredible. So I've been to the Great Wall several times. This is at Badaling, where I went in the winter of 2016, and at this time the sky is very clear. You can see into the distance as the wall goes along the hills. There's no leaves on the trees, which looks a bit bare, but it gives you good views of the mountains. And here we have another section of the Great Wall at Mutianyu, and both of these areas are quite easily accessible from Beijing. This was in summer of 2019. It was a very hot day again. And you can see, again, the weather's good. You can see the Great Wall going into the distance across and now the trees full of leaves. And I've been to where the Great Wall starts at Jiayuguan. Now, well, the Great Wall actually has many different walls, and there's not really a start of it as such. But this is one of the ends of the Great Wall in the desert at Jiayuguan in Gansu province. And this is known as the first beacon tower. So the remains of what was one end of the Great Wall at one time, the first tower. And the wall here, it looks quite different. As you walk along it, well, it's much narrower for a start. More sandy coloured. And this part is known as the overhanging Great Wall at Jiayuguan. And I've been to the other end of the Great Wall, where it meets the sea. This is in Laolongtou, which means Old Dragon's Head, because the end of the Great Wall apparently looks like the head of a dragon drinking from the sea. Looks fairly easy to get around, I would say, this wall. Not sure how effective it would be to stop people. But yeah, remarkable, the Great Wall. And there you can see the Old Dragon's Head from another angle, and all the people playing on the beach beside the end of the Great Wall. So yeah, the Great Wall more than lived up to the hype, and I definitely recommend it. Much more than just a wall. Number 2, Zhangjiajie Forest Park, near the city of Zhangjiajie in Hunan province. Now, Zhangjiajie is the name of a city. It's also the name of a small village, and it's the name that most people would know the forest park as. It's the scenic area's proper name is Gulangyu, but the scenic area is divided into different parts, and most people call this part Zhangjiajie, as well as the city. But yeah, I took a cable car ride, took a couple of cable car rides through the peaks of Zhangjiajie, and absolutely amazing. These peaks are known as the Avatar Mountains, and the park itself markets itself as the Avatar Mountains after the movie. As you can see, so many people there this day. So queuing for the bus. It's a huge park inside. The buses are included in the price of the ticket, which is great, but the buses are so busy, and you can't get from one part of the park to another without taking a bus. So you have to queue up and wait for the buses every time. It's really only at the entrance where it's this busy, but still, that was annoying. And I was only there on a regular Thursday during the week. It wasn't even a holiday. But when you get there, get up to the top of the park and see all these peaks and stacks, definitely worth it. So I was there in November 2019. But the trees were mostly still green, a few red ones there as you can see. A lot of them are evergreens anyway. Here we are amongst the peaks. It started to rain at one point and I sheltered under this overhanging rock for a while. Incredible. And you can see some of the local residents, such as this monkey. They're quite friendly, maybe too friendly. And if you get any food out, they'll try and steal it. But great to see the monkeys there. And in the city of Zhangjiajie, you can also see this Tianshan mountain with a huge hole in it. You can actually take a cable car from the city centre all the way up to the mountain, and you can see the mountain with the hole in it from many parts of the city. And that takes us to my number one, which is Gulangyu Island in Xiamen, Fujian province. My personal choice as my favourite place to have visited while I was in China. And not an easy decision because so many great places. But here is the city of Xiamen. It's in the south of China, just across the sea from Taiwan. And it's in Fujian province. It has nice hot weather all year round, quite humid. But as you can see, a lot of these buildings are pretty new, so it's developing very quickly. That's the city of Xiamen, which is actually on an island itself. But what I want to talk about is Gulangyu Island, which is where this photo is taken from. So you can see Xiamen downtown city in the background, and this is from Gulangyu Island. But here we can see a lot of different style buildings, lots of smaller buildings, many unusual buildings here, and the island doesn't have much traffic. There's no bridge or tunnel to get to it. You have to go by ferry. So I left in the morning on the ferry, a bit misty, looked amazing, and arrive on the island, and you can walk around the beach. There's rocky shores there, and I see some of Xiamen in the background. There's this famous a large statue which you can walk up to, which I did, and there it is on the south tip of the island. Lots of famous architecture, unusual architecture on the island, such as this very narrow house, narrow building. So just walk around the island, the narrow streets. It has a Sports and Olympic Museum. Go and visit. It has this very interesting fishbone art gallery where all of the pieces of art are made from fishbone, such as this one. And this overhanging tree, I have to duck to get underneath. It also has a few temples and beautiful scenery, and you walk up to Sunshine Mountain, Sunshine Peak. Here we are, a view of the island from the top of the little hill, really, not a mountain. You can see all the people walking up and the queue to get there. Beautiful views of the island. And Xiamen has other attractions as well, such as the Expo Park and this area. One of my favourite places is Hulishan Fortress on the island. The subway opened the day I was there, at the end of December 2017, and all the people were very excited for the new subway, and it just felt like a wonderful city, and this island especially I thought was the best. So that's my top 10 of places to visit in China, and I thoroughly recommend going to see as many of them as you can if you're ever there. But that's just really the tip of the iceberg. So many other places I would consider for the top 10, like the Summer Palace in Beijing, the city of Kaifeng in Henan province. Going to see the pandas in Chengdu was a wonderful experience. The canals of Suzhou, or walking along the Bund in Shanghai. Climbing up to the Dragon Gate in Kunming, the city of Dalian in the northeast on the sea. Or Zhuhai down in the south, also by the sea, with the Fisher Girl statue. Or the small city of Hebi, which has got so many trees and nature in Henan province. So that's my opinions on the best places to visit in China. Thanks for listening.